Welcome to Find Your Spice today. This is all about storytelling. My background actually is in filmmaking, which is all about telling stories. And what I wanted to do is sort of give you some of the clues as to how to best tell your story with that dread question of, tell me about yourself, which is the answer they want is not for you to regurgitate something on your resume, of course. The answer is they want to get a sense of your character and what your story is about. And stories have a lot of the same elements to them, and they've had the same elements to them forever. Just a little background about myself. My name is Andrea Mia, and I live in Portland, Oregon. I've been doing coaching for years, mainly focused on creative people and people with MBAs. As I said, my background was in filmmaking for a long time, and I'm still involved in that industry to some degree. But I'm really interested in helping people help tell their stories and feel good and confident about them as well. And it's not enough to just tell it. It's also important that you feel good about it. Okay, so. And I am not terribly savvy at doing these webinars yet. So today's agenda, welcome everybody, first of all. And I just want to make sure you're all in now. Just chat, mention on chat whether you can hear everything and everything's okay. I see you, Manish. Thank you. Okay, good. I don't know if you just heard what I just had to say. Let me know if you just heard my introduction. Okay, not sure. Anyway, okay, good. I'm glad. Okay, yes, I did. Okay, thank you, Magdi. Anyway, so today's agenda, we're going to talk about the elements that go into what makes a good story, or what makes any story basically actually hold together. And originally, these elements that you see on the screen here today were broken down by Aristotle, which is around 384 BCE, so around almost 2,500 years ago or so. And he was looking at storytelling as far as poetry or dramas go. But this same basic structure as well as elements are what goes into telling a story today. And those are, as I say here, plot, which you have some sense of, I'm sure, decor, character, which we'll go into a little bit more. This is the agenda for today. Tell your first story. We're going to have a breakout session, and I'll have you tell a story to each other. And then we'll learn a little bit more about storytelling and do that again later. Melody, diction, spectacle, theme, and then we'll do another tell your story, and then a question and answer section and closing comments. Let's see. Okay, so plot. Plot is probably the thing that you're most familiar with. The idea of a beginning, a middle, and an end. So we have to come from somewhere. We have to have some sort of drama, some sort of conflict, some sort of exposition. Something has to happen in some way, and then we have to resolve it. Those are the three things. What Aristotle talks about is that we have to have some sort of empathy, basically, for each other, establish that empathy, show what the conflict is, and then have a catharsis. Catharsis meaning a resolution to it. A really simple idea of this could be, I love going shopping. I went to the store the other day. There were these homeless people outside, and they were making a real ruckus, and it was really disturbing to me. Luckily, somebody came out of the store and asked them to be quiet and to move their business on, and I felt much relieved. So this establishes where I am, what I was going to do, where the conflict was, and what the resolution was. So the catharsis was the resolution. I felt better. the conflict moved on. This is just a really simple story in that way. So that's what plot is. You know, how is this relevant to you telling your story? This is part of how we think. We want to have a resolution to it. So if you tell a story where there is no resolution, like I joined Udacity to take a class. Okay, where did that go? That didn't really give me much of a story. That didn't tell me much. I wanted to learn all about machine learning. I joined Udacity because I wanted to learn all about machine learning. You see, my background is in engineering, and I love problem solving more than anything. This class at Udacity has taught me how to problem solve on a new level. I am now able to problem solve using a certain type of language. Sorry, I'm not going to quote which language right now. A certain type of language, and it's really exciting to me. Because I'm able to do this problem solving on a different level. So what that's doing storytelling wise is it's telling me a little bit of why and what's interesting to me about this, taking this class basically. It's not giving much of a plot. It's not giving much of a background. So I want to introduce a couple of other ideas as to what we do next. So decor. Second idea he has is decor. Decor in this case is sort of where you are coming from. So I have little examples here. Does anybody recognize any of these places at all? You can write down in the chat if you do. Does anybody recognize anything? Let's see. Let me just make sure everybody can get into the room, realizing that I think everybody's in the room. Oh, now, okay. Eiffel Tower, exactly. So that's in France. We have Machu Picchu. In Egypt, we have the Colosseum area. We have Santorini, New York, lots of different places, actually. I was just having fun showing that all of these places evoke different things. And maybe you're from Myanmar. I have a picture of Myanmar down there. Or I have Brooklyn and Wadi Rum mentioned. All of these different, good job, Angkor Wat, yep, and the London Eye. And I think I have Versailles in there as well. Anyway, the idea is if you give people a context of where you're coming from, not just necessarily a city, but maybe you're from a small town. Maybe you are from a family of engineers yourself. It could be what your family is from. It could be the place you are from. It could be the background that you are from. Like I moved around a lot growing up, and therefore studying, for example, online is second nature to me because that's how I grew up. Giving people, and it could be anything, that's what I'm saying, but the key to it is giving them a bit of context. What he calls it is decor. It's in a way, it's about dressing the background. Where did you come from? That answer does not have to be the physical place. It can be where you come from in your family, where you come from in your background in some sort of fashion. But you want to give people a little bit of sense of your background. This is part of telling your story. The third thing I want to bring up is character. There are two types of character. Let's see that it doesn't move. Dynamic character or round character. So dynamic character, as you can read, is a person who transforms in some way. A person who, I may have started here, but now I am here. Or because I learned this, now I am doing that. There's a progression basically of thought in trying to communicate with somebody about yourself. It's almost like pinpointing that moment when I knew that something was happening. That's a dynamic character, one that could be very subtle, but it is transformational basically, and an awareness of transformation going on. That's one type of person's basic character, a person who becomes aware. The other type of character is a rounded character, very distinct personalities, backgrounds, or motives. Like I described before, a person who loves problem solving more than anything, in fact, comes from a family of puzzlers. Um, this gives a sense of background. This tells you this is a rounded person, and this is a person who knows already what they're all about. There's no, I'm not making judgment on either type of these characters, okay? But what I'm saying is, it's one thing that you need to do is start to identify yourself as one of these characters. Are you a transformational character? Or are you a rounded character? So is the essence of your story a story about evolving? Or is it a story about knowing from the get-go, this is what I am, this is what I like doing? For example, if you're a marketing person, if marketing for you is all about shaking hands, meeting people, you are an outgoing, gregarious person, period. That's probably how you were born. That's probably what you are. That's what you like doing more than anything. Your transformational story might not be that striking. Maybe it is, but I'm trying to give an extreme example. Somebody who really likes meeting people, pressing the flesh, going out of the way to do presentations, to be in front of people at all time. You think actors maybe, that may be part of what they're about to some degree. That is a round character, a person who sort of stands in the world and has known, in a sense, who they are the whole time. A transformational character is one that has learned over time and sort of caught on to certain things about themselves because maybe a certain event has happened. It doesn't have to be a traumatic event, but maybe something has happened that has taught them something about themselves, and they have transformed into a certain type of person that likes puzzles, for example, or maybe loves marketing and loves going out there, but they turned into that sort of person. So two different types of people. Any questions about that on chat you can put in? Because these might be complicated ideas, and so I just want to make sure you're getting them. Okay. Okay. So what I want to do now is I want us to actually practice telling our stories. There's going to be more information that I'm going to give you and more ways to round out this story. But this is the idea. And there's only about 14 of you, so I guess we'll have probably just a couple of breakout sessions, basically. And so you're going to be able to talk to each other. So whether it'll be groups of 4 or not, I think it just depends on how many people we have. So it may be 3 or 4 groups. What I would like you to do is to introduce yourself to each other. And in your introduction, I want you to say who you are, where you're from, how you first heard about Udacity, and what kind of class you're taking there. If you can add information as to, in the why, as to what led you there to take it, that it really becomes a story in a sense, how I got here and what it is I'm hoping to get out of the class, for example. So how I got here has to do with your background and has to do with your character. Is this something, are you transforming? Or is this, I take classes, and this is part of what I do. I take this type of class, and this is just the next one that I'm taking because this is who I am. Those are the sorts of things I would like you to try to share with each other. And when you listen to each other, if you can take little notes as to what it is you've heard, like what stuck out about the other person's story, okay, what you remember from it. It may be their name, it may be where they're from, it may be why they're taking the class, who knows? We don't know, or it may be just a word, or it may be something about the quality of their voice. We don't know exactly what it is that you're going to tap into, but write down what it is your impression is of each other when you introduce each other, okay, so that you can remember. And now I'm going to try to set you into breakout rooms. So give me 1 second. Okay. I'm not assigning you. Oh, I am assigning you. Okay, so Emily, let's see. Sorry, give me 1 moment here. So join the breakout room. And it seems there's a breakout room in progress. Are any of you in the breakout room? No, no, no. Okay. Interesting. Let's try it again. Unassigned. Okay, Emily. Okay, let's do assigned to breakout. Okay, actually, because there's so few of you today on this lovely Sunday, I'm actually going to put all of you in the same room. Hopefully this works. Are you all in a room together now?
On how we're supposed to introduce ourselves. I learned about Udacity when I thought I wanted to be a data scientist, although I wasn't quite sure what that meant. So I took Udacity challenge last year, and it was very good. After going through the nano degree, I realized I didn't want to be a data scientist. I want to be a data engineer now that I'm learning about what the difference is. So now I'm taking cloud DevOps, so to gather more skills to become a data engineer. That's me. So
Next.
as far as dynamic versus round, I think I'm a round character dynamically looking for myself. Does that count?
Sure.
I'm done.
Great. Jamie, can you go?
Yeah, so I chose the Udacity. I'm enrolled in the React program. I chose the program because I want to, I heard about Udacity. I was searching online for programs to help me continue to grow as a developer and learn new skills. And it really helped me with my programming skills. And I'm having it challenges me, and I'm having fun with it. So
Okay, thank you.
that wasn't good.
You know something, this is about practicing it and listening to others and then hearing, oh, I really like that, and getting a sense of the better storytelling in that sense. So let's try Magdi next. And I may have missed you, Imani. I'm not sure, but Magdi, hi.
Yeah. Thank you. Hi, everyone. I heard about Udacity through a TV spot, actually. So it was an advertisement on TV. I'm currently living in Germany, but I'm originally from Hungary. And so I'm just a background. I moved from the big city, so the capital from Hungary, to a very small village where like 40 people lives. So it was a big change. And
Very
I'm
small.
working actually in the film industry as well, and working at home as a freelancer. And yeah, I heard about Bertelsmann, of course, and that was the trigger. And I said, okay, I would like to change a little bit, probably a career change as well, or just widen my knowledge. And that's why I took the data analysis scholarship, so the data track and scholarship from Bertelsmann. And yeah, what else? Yeah, I think I'm more a transformative person, um, because if I look back my career, I try to learn always something new. And even I'm working in the same industry for the last 2 decades, I'm always trying to find something new which challenge me. And this is definitely a challenge for me at the moment because of the programming language. It's totally new. I'm totally a newbie. But I like this challenge, and of course the community as well.
Fantastic. Definitely write down what you heard from Magdi as the takeaway of her transformation, okay? Because she goes to one of the other points, and we'll bring up a thematic later, which she tuned into. Imane.
Hi, I'm Iman. I'm from Morocco. I work in the automotive industry. I heard about Udacity where I was looking for papers about the autonomous driving systems, and so I just found myself in the blog of someone that launches the self-driving nano degree, and I talked to him. I connected on LinkedIn. I talked to him, and he introduced me to Udacity. And fast forward, I wanted to get there, but I figured out that I don't have the coding skills. So now I'm starting from the very beginning, programming skills, and yeah, and I'm going there. So I think I'm very dynamic because I've been doing a lot of things in my career, and I'm very excited about this self-driving field.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Leismar.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, I had some audio problem before. So I'm in Belém, northern Brazil, and I heard about Udacity, I think 2 years ago, when I saw an advertisement about the digital marketing degree, and I took this degree. It was my first course experience with Udacity, and now I heard about this scholarship, and I was interested because my daily life I work with data, but now I never before worked with these like tools like with programming database, so deeply like this. So this was the opportunity. So my daily life, I think I'm very dynamic too, because I'm curious to learn and apply new stuff to my daily job. And I work for the government here in the state government, and I'm a part of the team that manages development projects for the rural communities in the state of Pará. That's it.
Okay, wonderful. Emily and Jocelyn, I don't see your faces, but Emily, can you unmute yourself and introduce?
Yeah, I'm here. Hi, I'm Emily. I live in the Chicago area, and I was introduced to Udacity programs from a former alumni, and I really developed an interest in data as I worked in the sports industry for the last decade. and just really used Udacity to develop my programming skills with Python. And I hope to use data, to better companies and industries in the future, and taking their data from the past and how that can help them to move on.
Okay, good. And Jocelyn.
Hear me?
Hi, now we can hear you.
Hello.
Hi, we
Um,
can hear you.
Hi. My name is Jocelyn. I am from Caracas, Venezuela, and I am a senior year computer science student. And I heard about Udacity a couple years ago when I'm trying to complement my courses from college to more technical skills that Udacity learn. Sorry, my English is not very good, but I'm trying. And now I am as a scholar from Bertelsmann scholarship, and I am doing the artificial intelligence another degree. I think I am as I don't remember her name. Oh, I forgot her name, but the lady from Germany said that I think I
Magdi.
am Mag. Sorry,
That's okay.
forgot your name. I think I am transformed person because I always try to learn something new. Although here in college, we are a little bit step back from another universities, from I don't know United States or any other countries. I try to, but through online, try to complement my education, and always try to learn something new in order to get a better job in the future after my graduation.
Thank
Sorry.
you. That's fine. No, it's good. I got something out of that, and I learned something about you at least. MP, who's just joined us, I'm not quite sure if you can unmute yourself or know what we're doing exactly, but we're introducing ourselves and saying why we joined Udacity. And if they're not going to unmute themselves, we'll move on. Actually, since we're in this room right now, I'd like to do one thing. I'm going to ask each of you who you remembered and one thing you remembered about them. Okay, so I asked you to take notes on everybody, but the one that stuck out to you. So Jamie, I'll start with you. Of all the people that just introduced themselves, what stuck out in your mind? It could be one word basically about one person. That's all. We're not trying to judge in any way. We're just saying, okay, what stuck out?
Okay, so I would say Leah, the first person who spoke. She was in data science before she was previous enrolled in Udacity.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Leismar, what do you remember?
The girl I got the last want to know the last history. The girl from Venezuela, and how she discovered about
Jocelyn.
Udacity. That's it.
That's fine. That's fine. We're just, we'll do a few more. Magdi, what do you remember?
Can I say two? Because one of the person I remember well, because we are in the same track. It is Lismar, and he's one of the student leaders, and it was nice to see him basically and hear him. So I'm glad about it. But the next one was actually Jocelyn for me as well, because she's a student from Venezuela, and yeah, she's learning artificial intelligence with the Bertelsmann scholarship. So it is something for me outstanding that a student from South America
scholar.
is learning something. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and from South America as well.
Yeah, and obviously all the others. So I have from everyone.
No, that's
something.
okay. Just one right now.
No.
Leah, what sticks out to you? Oh, unmute yourself, Leah. We can't hear you.
There. Maggie stuck out the most to me because she went from a big town to a small town. And I would like to talk to her more someday, maybe, because I had the same experience. I went from a large town, and I now am in a very small town, which has its challenges.
Yeah.
Very nice. Emily, you may not have heard a lot of the stories. I'm not sure.
Yes, I was going to say, I remembered Leah's story because she was debating between, data science and being a data engineer. And that's something that I've done a lot of research on myself also.
Excellent. And let's see, Jocelyn, what do you remember most?
I met this story because she said she always tried to learn something new, although she have more than 20 years of experience. So she always tried to learn something new. That for me is very valuable.
Excellent. And Imane, have you heard any of the stories? Did you? I don't think you shared. I'm not quite sure.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
So for me, it's Magdi as well, but it's before, because my boyfriend has the same story. He's from Hungary, moved to Germany, so it's stuck in my head.
So what's interesting about this for all of us is that what you latch on to, basically, what part of the story you latched onto. I asked you all to tell the same story, basically, who you are, where you're from, a little bit, so the where you're from part. And interestingly, that's part of what stuck out to people a lot, is where you're from. And where you're from also went to where you're from intellectually, where you're changing from intellectually and what you're learning. So the names go away oftentimes. Nobody commented on the backgrounds yet, but we haven't focused on that and like what we're seeing picture-wise, because that could play a role. And it's interesting that, very little of what you say really connects in the end. And that's one thing I want you all to know about the succinctness of how you introduce yourself is kind of important, because we take away whatever it is that we latch onto and relate to the best. That's what we take away. So we got to give people information to latch onto. It has to be descriptive enough, but it also has to be succinct, because we're all smart. We all catch on pretty quickly, basically, as soon as you start to describe what it is. I think Magdi did a good description of coming from a large town to a small town and leaving it at that. Moved from Hungary to Germany, large town to small town, interesting challenges, 20 years in the film industry also, and keep learning. It's like, what does it boil down to is part of it, and that's our takeaway. So I'm gonna get us out of the breakout sessions. We'll come back to this in a moment. I wanna go over a few more elements, and then we will try this again given these other elements. Let's see if I can do this right. Okay.
Andrea, you are mute.
Hi, now you can hear what I'm saying. Okay, so what I was talking about was, you can see the screen, right? Melody and prosody. Melody and prosody, that's about the sound of how we speak, what the music is in our language. You are a speaker of English. Mute yourself, please. Thank you. When you are a speaker of a second language, this is one of the most difficult things to get, basically. and not to speak in a monotone voice, for example. But the way that you speak, the volume, how you emphasize things, your personal, like what your voice really sounds like, that tells a story as well. Oftentimes it tells a story of confidence or no confidence, to give you an example of what can come across. It also gives you a sense of whether the person is comfortable in the language or not. But melody is part of how we speak to each other, and it's part of the impression that we give. So like a handshake or a proper bow, when you meet somebody, the language, the melody of how you speak speaks about you as well. And so if we are conscious about this and we speak from our diaphragm and we have confidence when we speak and we listen to ourselves, even on recording, and hear what we sound like and make sure we're not speaking from here, for example, and doing breathy voice type speaking, that can make a difference on the impression and the story that you're telling. It tells a different story, basically, at the end of the day. If I say I'm the most confident person imaginable, yes, hearing me, and I'm not, I'm taking very large pauses as I speak, I'm not giving the impression of any sort of confidence. Okay, I'm doing an extreme example, but this is kind of an important thing about telling your story, is actually what the music is of your voice. Another element is diction, word choice and clarity. So clarity is about making the ideas clear also, okay? Choosing words that are evocative in some fashion, that are simple enough for the listener to understand and to get a feeling of. That's part of the listening exercise I had you just do, of what stuck out. You know, what words really hit home, that you really heard that that Jocelyn was from Venezuela. Like everybody sort of got that one, or a lot of you got that one. It's like, oh, that somehow that stuck out in my mind as interesting. And she was a scholarship student. She could have chosen other words. I'm from South America, not very descriptive, didn't tell me much about like which place in South America, or that maybe that Spanish is her native tongue. Could have been Portuguese, could have been Leismars, you know, we don't know. So word choice, choosing your words carefully, making some decisions even before you introduce yourself and tell that story of who are you, choosing words that you know that they will understand, that are evocative in some sort of way, and that clearly tell your story. This is another aspect of storytelling. So spectacle. Spectacle in this case is when we look at each other. A lot of you have turned your videos off right now, so I can't do this to you right now. But Imane.
Sorry, Andrea, are you sharing something? Because we cannot see.
Oh, you can't see any of this. Oh, lovely.
No.
You're not seeing my beautiful pictures. Give me 1 second. Oh. Okay. Give me a moment here. I think I have to close this down. I'm not quite sure. Technologically speaking, I am a mess with this, unfortunately. Let's see. Let's put this over here. And give me 1 more second, people. Okay, I cannot share. Thank you for letting me know. I can't see right now where to share, although I think it's recording it. Okay, so what I was trying to share, and let's just see if, let me try one more thing. Give me 1 more moment. Okay, in here, share. Okay, can you see a picture now?
Yes.
Yes, you can. Okay. And I'm sorry it's not full screen right now, but that's okay. Okay, so spectacle is what I had just shared that you did not see were melody and prosody. That was what I was talking about, the music of language, basically, and making sure that we intonate well and speak clearly, meaning our voices are strong. And clarity of word choice was the other thing. The last thing I wanted to share with of these pictures was spectacle. Spectacle has to do with how we're presenting ourselves physically. How we present ourselves physically in the world tells some sort of story, and we're making some sort of choices about how we, what people are going to perceive about us. So I put some pictures here. These are all actually engineers on the bottom right here. These are all well-known engineers in some sort of fashion, professors and deans, etc. And these are all their professional photographs. And it's not that they're so formal, but you get some information from all of them and how they are dressed. And the one thing I just want to, and I'm showing you this picture of this guy who's a doctor and who also happens to be a tattoo enthusiast, let's say, is that how you present yourself physically also tells part of your story. You can make choices within that. One of the more important things when you're meeting people, of course, is do you smell neutrally? You know, do you not smell distinctively, let's say, not over perfumed or over fooded or over whatever, okay? But neutrally, so you're not telling a story about what you had for lunch. You're letting them see you first, basically, and not smell you first. There also, you don't want to have clothing on that's going to tell a story that you don't want to tell. So if your story that you don't want to tell is, I'm a really sloppy person, then you don't dress like a sloppy person. If you do want to tell the story, I am a sloppy person, then dress sloppy. But those are choices, basically, and they communicate to anybody else in the room part of what you're trying to say about yourself. The last one I want to share is actually probably the most difficult to figure out, the most important, because it is the takeaway that people can really understand you from, and that is your theme. So when I tell a story, I want to know deep down, what is it about? Is it a story of optimism, for example? So I could say the story, the conference was in full swing with scholars delivering knowledgeable lectures on varying subjects, and the audience enjoyed it immensely. What is the thematic of that? The thematic is sort of one of optimism in some way. The conference was going on, everybody was being delivered knowledgeable information, and the audience was fully engaged. I'm looking at this optimistically, basically, if I was to assign a theme to it. In my life, I would say that part of my story is about transformation. I have gone from, I've had maybe, I would say 3 careers in my life. All of them deep down are about teaching and about sharing with others and learning from people all around the world. The thematic has something to do with sharing, and that I want to do that, and that I want to learn from people from all over the place. For each of you, if you boil down how you engage in activities, why you engage in activities, and what is the commonality of those either engagements or the activities themselves, you can figure out what the ongoing theme is of your life. Are you a person, there was one person, I'm not sure who it is now, who likes taking classes. They just like taking classes. I didn't take perfect notes when I was listening. They like taking classes and they keep doing that. They may be a lifelong learner. that may be part of the thematics of their lives, or a lifelong challenger, that they like challenging themselves. If there's something that they don't know, they want to take a class. They want to figure it out. So I'd like you to take a moment to think about that for yourselves as well. What might be the thematic that integrates the different things that you have done in your life together? If you can deliver that to somebody in a, hi, nice to meet you, you know, tell me about yourself. If you can tell them that, that's probably the thing they'll remember more than anything. I'm from Caracas and I'm a lifelong learner. In fact, I get scholarships a lot of the time to study because I'm really good at it as well. And I'm really good at integrating what I study into what I do work-wise. That awareness and putting it up front helps people remember who you are and what your story is about. So what oopsie, you can still see this? There. So what I would like to do now is I'd like us to join in one more time. And I would like us to tell the story, not of why you joined Udacity, okay? But think about what was the most striking thing that happened to you in 2019, to your family or to you. Think about when you tell this story, how this might tie into your thematic, what it is about you that makes you different. Think about also how it ties into your character. And also when you're telling the story, think about the plot. Think about what is the beginning, middle, and end of this little story that I want to share about the most memorable thing that happened in 2019. Give us a little bit of context, you know, so that's the background or where you're from type part, a little bit of context, okay? Don't spend a lot of time in that. And remember that your voice carries and tells part of the story as well. And with English as a second language, totally fine to say, you know, take the pauses that you need to take. But when you speak, make sure to speak up so that we can hear you well. Okay, take your time though. And for when English is not the issue at all, remember also that the melody of how you speak communicates something about your story as well. Is this a story that's upsetting? Is this a story that's really exciting? Is it funny? All of those different sorts of ways that you tell stories and what stories are, they can come through in the words that you choose, as well as the melody, the music of the words. So we're going to split into this breakout room again. It'll be the same breakout room because we're a small group today, which is cool. And let's see. Let's see, join. Okay, so I think we're in the breakout room again. Everybody here. Can we start with, actually with Leah? You're at the top of the screen.
A memorable thing that happened in 2019, probably the most significant for me, was I was a freelance website developer after a long career as a database administrator. Can I start over? After a long career as a database administrator, I became a website developer for the small organizations in my very small town. I was good at it. I enjoyed it. I loved working with people and the excitement of their projects. I was technically able to deliver what they needed, and it gave me quite a bit of pleasure to help people realize their dreams. What I discovered about myself was I preferred to work with a team, with team members who could speak my technical language and bounce ideas off of each other, which was one reason why I started investigating becoming a data scientist, so I could leverage my 20 years experience as a DBA and enter the data scientist, data engineering realm. So the significant part of all this was I was able to step back from something that was fun and I was good at, but did not make a lot of money from, and take the stand that I was going to follow my dream of working with the team.
Excellent. Thank you, Leah. Again, you're listening to people. If you can just write down one word about what you remember from what Leah just said, for example. Okay. And now I'm going to mute, and Imane, if you could go next.
So beside my work in the automotive industry, I volunteer a lot, and I make the biggest thing in 2019 is I was able to get enough funds to build the library for orphans home, and I put a lot of work on it, and I think that will be very beneficial for them. And it has always been one of my biggest interests to share knowledge and to make it more, to democratize it and to make it more available for everyone. And I took the opportunity to do a robotic workshop, and that's where all the story of programming started. Yeah, I'm very proud of that.
We can see that too, by the way. This is an example. I'll just give you this example of the spectacle. This isn't about your clothing in this way, but the way that you presented yourself smiling. We could see that you are proud of it and that you were happy about it. And that came across as part of your story. So I just want to point out when I see things or hear things with you all, what is telling the story. Okay, great, thank you. Magdi?
The most memorable situation I had last year is it relates to myself, and it relates to a person I work with for a long time. We have a very good personal and business relationship as well. And he's working for a company where the company is in big challenges because of the industry trends, and he was under pressure. And during the years, I noticed that he's not in the condition not in the right condition as a person to lead a team, a department, a whole department. And he's going to, or actually he is in burnout. And it is really, he was in a condition which was really serious, I would say. And nobody told him in what situation he is. And I was the person, I said that I have to tell him that he has to take a break, and he has to go to sabbatical and get together and talk to a coach. So that was I would say the most difficult time for me to do. It was solved, so it went in a very positive way. But then after a few months, I also realized that I'm also in the direction to get a burnout. And then I had to take also a decision, okay, what to do now. So I also asked for an expert to help me. So I didn't get to that point when I said that I'm in burnout, but I was very close to that one. And I'm really happy that I could solve this, obviously with the help of the expert, but also with my own help and realization that what situation I'm in, and that I have to change also regarding my work. I think that was it.
Excellent. So what was, and this isn't to take your story lightly, okay? But what was good about that story also was you started with somebody else, but you brought it to yourself.
Yeah.
And connected the resolution of both.
Yeah.
And that made it a clear story in that sense. So I just wanted to say that's a good takeaway from that story as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lismar, or Lismar? I'm sorry if I'm saying things wrong.
It's Lismar.
Lismar.
Okay. Well, one interesting story of many that happened in 2019 is It was when I just finished my post-graduation on sustainable tourism. And one of the reasons I decided to took this post-graduation is because I like to travel a lot. And when I just finished it, for my surprise, I was invited to give it 2 courses. And I need to travel to make these courses. So for my surprise, I could, for the first time, work and travel and talk about sustainable tourism. And of course, this happened because during the course, I made a lot of network, like I'm doing now with Udacity. So people know a little about me, even though I never met these people before, but they know my story, my inspiration. So I think it's really working. Like we talk about our stories to everybody because we never know who can hear about us. So that's the message that I wanna give you here. That we have to take all the opportunity to talk about us, what we're doing, because we never know who look around us and look at our stories.
Thank you, Lismar. That's great. And to that end, in the chat room, this is a good opportunity, by the time we end, for you all to share your email addresses or your LinkedIn profiles, and to be able to stay in contact with each other and see what else you might have in common and what other collaborations you could participate in with each other, not just learning a little bit about storytelling on a Sunday afternoon. Thank you, Lismar. Jamie. Unmute yourself, Jamie.
I'm sorry. So the most memorable thing that happened to me in 2019 was I graduated college. My background's in web development, so my last course gave me many opportunities to grow as a person and to improve on my skills. And it gave me the confidence that this is what I want to do as a career choice. And yeah, now I'm just starting to go into the workforce and see what happens.
That sounds very hopeful, Jamie.
Yeah.
It is and by the end of you speaking right now, I felt like you felt that more yourself as you were talking about it, or that's what came across as I'm seeing you. So excellent. Thank you. Emily.
So one of the things that I got to do in 2019 was I traveled quite a bit, and I actually took up a new sport of rock climbing, which was very exciting for me because I climbed my first outdoor route in 2019. And after making that climb, within 2 to 3 weeks after that was when I graduated from my nano degree with Udacity. So that was kind of a big push for me to, complete something in sports and then also complete something academically in the same year.
Excellent. Thank you. Great. Jocelyn.
Hi. I write some of my ideas because English is my second language, so to accelerate the process. 2019 was for me a transition year because at the end of 2018, my grandmother dies, and it was a very hard moment for my family and I. And 2 months later, at the beginning of the 2019, my just died too, and I felt very sad by the personal side of my life, and also by the professional life. And I felt that I was not good to finish my career because here in Venezuela the situation is a little bit hard, and I felt sad. Simple, I felt a little bit sad. I choose don't be I'm sorry. Don't be sad for forever or I'm sorry. I don't.
Jocelyn, take a breath for a second, okay?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Take a breath.
I choose to continue, and despite of my sadness, I try to focus in my study and my work, and be okay, be healthy. For that, I got an internship. Uh, the last on the beginning of the 2018, and it was finished on June. Also, I try to focus in myself, you know, to be more healthy and help my family. For the first time I moved out here in Venezuela, is not a traditional thing. For example, in United States, people when go to college move out, but here is more later on. Also, I apply for several scholarships, and I got the Udacity scholarship at the end of 2018. And also right now I working in my final work project, and I expect 2012 was my will be my graduation year, and also be the beginning of more exciting stories, because 2019 was a little bit mixed feelings.
Jocelyn, first of all, thank you for sharing, because it sounds like 2019 was a challenging year for me to pick for you to focus on right now. So thank you very much for sharing with that. 2019 for me was all about cancer, which I had this past year, and all about learning how to deal with it and getting through the challenges of it, basically. And so I am also hopeful, Jocelyn, that 2020 will be a much better year than 2019 was. But it was interesting to learn all about the different things that you're assaulted with the modern treatments that are really barbaric in cancer. So anyway, so that was part of my story in 2019. I wanted to thank you all, first of all, for joining this class. We had a really small group, and so I'm really glad that we all got to share with each other. I wanted to know if any of you have any questions as well, and I'll go back to the slides in a moment, but just so we can all see each other right now. Any questions at all?
Hi, I have a question about the melody. So sometimes when I, like, especially when I have to present to like a management or something, like I have this choking voice. So as you were describing before coming from here,
yeah.
And I don't know if you have any tips to, when you get into this situation, how you could manage it and how to make sure that your voice or your tone is back on track.
Right. So a couple of things. One is to be aware of how to breathe from your diaphragm. And diaphragm is basically the bottom of your lungs, and that the breath is coming from there. There are a couple of ways to be aware of that. One is to hold your hands on top of your diaphragm and to feel it expanding when you breathe, and to practice speaking from there. Practice hearing your voice from there coming up and out, and feeling the difference. You know what it sounds like when it's coming from here, and that tightness that can be in your throat from there. So one thing is just be aware of it coming from below. And one of the best ways is to keep your hands on that in the practice mode. And even when you're giving a speech, you can keep your hand there as you're speaking, if that's possible, to make sure that you keep breathing. Because part of talking from your throat is that you're not breathing. You're breathing very shallowly, basically. One of the other things that I like to encourage people to do before they give speeches or before they give interviews, for example, is to go into the bathroom before you go out to do this, and to raise your arms in the air as if you've just won a race, and to give your whole body that sense of winning and confidence and that it's already over, basically, before you've begun. But to get somatically, so that physically, that feeling of confidence deep down, and to start from that place before you start talking. That's another way to also sort of connect with your body and connect in a positive way. Any other questions? Wonder Woman pose. Yes, exactly.
Yes, I have a question.
Yeah.
What will you suggest when people get some nervous at the middle of that speeches? For example, in my case, I feel a little bit insecure about my English level.
Mhm.
So if I try to apply, for example, an foreign company, the interviews usually is in English.
Yeah.
So, well, what will you suggest to keep calm and confident in your English level, for example?
So one of the things, and this isn't just about English, okay? This is when you're in an interview situation, the more that you have practiced your stories that you want to tell, I usually suggest to people to prepare to say 6 stories, regardless of their questions, okay? These same stories can be used for different purposes. The same story might be used about teamwork or leadership or failure, depending on how you tell the story. So the more that you know the stories that you want to tell and the reasons why you'd want to tell them, I think that goes to that sort of confidence when you're presenting yourself, basically. If you know them inside and out, it's hard to get lost and hard to get worried about it. That being said, let's say it happens, okay? And you're in the middle of it and you forgot what you're doing, or you're like a little worried about the English not coming out right. It is totally acceptable to say, just a moment, and gather yourself and have a pause for yourself. What's worse is to ramble on and to be lost and to not know where you're going anymore. They'll remember that, but you taking a pause and gathering your thoughts and getting it back together again, they'll forget that you took such a pause. Does that make sense, Jocelyn?
Yes, thank you.
Sure. Anybody else have a question? Okay, let me just go back. I'm going to close out the breakout room. Stay with me for a moment.
Andrea, I had to manually click leave the breakout room. It didn't happen automatically. And you are muted. Andrea, you're muted.
Okay, you can hear me now. The closeout room is going to take 20 seconds to close for right now. Sorry, that's taking a moment. Five seconds. Hopefully it'll come back up. Okay, so I'm hoping that you all can hear me now. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. And can you see the screen, or are we seeing each other still?
No, cannot see anything shared. Just
1
you.
second, thank you. Okay, we are back with the shared screen. So this is just a reference for you if you wanted to know more about Aristotle or read the Poetics. And I wanted to let you know also that there are future seminars coming up on February 5th and February 12th, and you can go to the Career Hub to sign up for that. And I just wanted to thank you also for joining me today on a Sunday and talking a bit about story. And the other thing I would say is you all have access at different points, in different amounts, to coaches. And this is a wonderful thing to go over with coaches is, how you're telling your story, how you're telling the about you, and getting yourself to a position of feeling confident that it is a story that people remember. And so that's the most important part of it, of course. And thank you very much. And I'll see you around Udacity. Take care.
Thank you.
Was nice.
You're welcome.
Great.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
You're
Bye,
quite
everybody.
welcome.
It's nice to hear you.
All over the world. Take care. Okay. Bye-bye.